I've survived IEDs, night raids, and 22 years in the Army, but nothing rattled me like the day a woman in a red tracksuit slammed her Lexus into my tractor and then called 911 to say I had attacked her. She stood there screaming for the police, clutching her little dog like she was the victim. What she didn't know was that every second of her performance, the collision, the rock she hurled through my windshield, even the fake tears was being recorded by the hidden cameras I'd set up. That was the moment her empire started to crumble, and mine, the quiet life I'd fought to rebuild, finally stood its ground. My name is Daniel Mercer. After more than 2 decades overseas, I came back to Stone Creek, the same farmland my father and grandfather had tended before me. The house was old, the barn older, and the tractor smelled like diesel and memory. I didn't come back for neighbors or community barbecues or any of that suburban politeness. I came back to take care of my land, to grow rows of corn that whispered in the wind the way they did when I was a boy. But the world had changed while I was gone. A subdivision had sprung up right against my fence line, stucco houses, neatly trimmed lawns, and a homeowners association that thought it was king. And at the center of it all sat Karen Holbrook, self-proclaimed queen of Stone Creek Estates. The first time I met her, it wasn't a handshake or a casserole at the door. It was 5 in the morning, a clipboard in her hand, sunglasses perched high like a crown. "You're new here," she said, like I was a tenant who owed her rent. I told her plain and simple, this land was mine long before this subdivision, and your HOA doesn't touch it. Her smile twitched, but she left me with a warning. "What happens on your property affects our community." I thought it was just noise, but it wasn't. That was the opening shot. The letters started showing up under my door: visual nuisance safety hazard, all citing HOA bylaws that didn't apply to me. I tossed them in the trash. Then came the drone buzzing low over my barn, snapping photos that somehow landed in the HOA newsletter under the headline, "New Neighbor Raises Concerns." I knew exactly who wrote it. Still, I kept my head down. I rebuilt my father's old Massey Ferguson, fixed irrigation lines, patched fences. When the engine finally coughed back to life, I felt closer to my father than I had in years. To me, it was memory. To Karen, it was violation. Every time that tractor moved, she was there snapping photos from her Lexus, clutching her dog like the dust might kill her. Harvest season pushed her over the edge. One morning I saw her sitting at the edge of her manicured lawn in that blazing red tracksuit, filming me as I drove. She shouted about dust, about her patio furniture. I shut the engine long enough to tell her, "This is farmland. It always has been." She stormed off, heels cracking like gunfire, but her eyes promised more. And she delivered. A sign appeared near the trail: "Caution, dangerous farm machinery ahead. Report concerns to HOA," with her number in bold. I took a photo and started a folder on my computer called HOA Nonsense. The harassment kept coming. Broken branches tossed over the fence, spray paint scrawled across the boards. "Keep it quiet." That was when I knew I needed cameras. One above the barn, one by the east gate, another hidden in a hollow fence post. I'd been trained to prepare for ambushes. This one was coming from my own backyard. Deputy Angela Booker, someone I'd once served alongside, saw me at the hardware store and warned me, "Karen plays dirty. Document everything." I nodded. I already was. And then came the day it all boiled over. The morning air was crisp, the tractor engine had just warmed when I heard the roar of tires on gravel. Her Lexus flew down the road at 40 miles an hour and smashed straight into the front quarter panel. The sound of metal crunching echoed across the fields. She stumbled out, clutching her phone, and screamed, "He attacked me! He tried to kill me with this machine!" She dialed 911 right there, crocodile tears streaming. Then, as if to seal the scene, she picked up a rock and hurled it through my windshield. Glass exploded into spiderweb cracks. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. Camera 3 was recording everything. 10 minutes later, a squad car pulled up. The officer was James Cordell, a kid I'd once coached in Little League. He listened to Karen's rant, wild gestures, accusations, all while pointing at me like I was some kind of monster. Then he turned to me. "You got cameras?" I reached into my pocket and handed him a flash drive. He slipped it into his uniform, gave a single nod, and walked back to her. Karen's smile froze when she heard the word footage. For once, she was the one on shaky ground. But Karen wasn't the type to stop after a failed strike. If anything, she doubled down. The next week was death by 1,000 cuts. Inspectors showed up at my barn on anonymous complaints fuel storage runoff fumes. Each time they walked away shaking their heads. My logs were clean, my setup safer than most municipal yards. Then came the flyers, the vandalism, the newsletters screaming about dangerous machinery. And for the first time, neighbors started pushing back. I got screenshots in my inbox. Maybe leave the guy alone. He's growing food. My kid loves watching his tractor. The cracks in Karen's empire were showing. Still, I'd be lying if I said it didn't wear me down. There were nights I sat at my kitchen table staring at another spray-painted fence, another complaint notice, and thought maybe I should sell. Maybe I don't belong here anymore. She wanted me gone, and little by little she was poisoning the whole neighborhood against me. For a moment, I wondered if she was right. Was I the problem? Was I just a stubborn old vet clinging to land that didn't fit this shiny new world? That doubt cut deeper than any vandalism ever could. But then I remembered why I came back. My father's hands on this soil, the rows of corn that fed us the promise that some things are worth protecting. I wasn't about to let a suburban tyrant rewrite my story, so I fought back the only way I knew, quietly, with evidence. I dug through county records, zoning documents, financial filings. What I found was bigger than dust or noise. Karen had been president years longer than the bylaws allowed. Dues had disappeared into administrative costs, signatures forged, elections skipped. I printed everything, sealed it in envelopes, and slipped one under every door in Stone Creek. By sunrise, the HOA Facebook page was on fire. Neighbors who once parroted her every word were asking questions. It all came to a head at the emergency HOA meeting. The clubhouse was packed. Karen marched in late crimson blazer heels, clacking like gunfire binder under her arm. She launched into a speech calling me reckless, hostile, dangerous. Her voice trembled in all the right places like she'd rehearsed it in front of a mirror. But when she was done, the room was silent. Too silent. Glenn Thompson, acting chair, called me up. I didn't have a binder, just a folder. I held up my deed. Agricultural land stamped and signed. Then I laid down photos, her Lexus smashed against my tractor, the rock through the windshield, flyers, newsletters, spray-painted fences, and finally, the HOA financials. 7 years of stolen money in her handwriting. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. She paid her nephew. 7 years without an election. Karen lunged forward, screaming, "Lies, all of it!" But Glenn's voice cut her down. "These are county records, ma'am. Public filings." For the first time, Karen had no comeback. That night, the board voted to strip her of power, effective immediately. But Karen wasn't finished. She sued me. Civil court. Harassment, defamation, interference with neighborhood harmony. I sat across from her in the courtroom, her lawyers spinning tales of trauma dust storms, emotional distress. The judge listened stony-faced. Then my lawyer Jeff Carson pressed play on the footage. Her Lexus barreling down the road, slamming into my tractor. Her voice on 911 trembling with fake fear, her hand hurling the rock that shattered my windshield. And the financial records, every forged signature, every missing dollar. When the lights came back on, the room had shifted. Even the judge flinched at the sound of the crash. Karen jumped to her feet, shrieking about doctored videos, fabricated documents. The judge cut her off. "These are public records. The evidence is clear." He dismissed her case with prejudice. Then he granted mine restitution for the tractor legal fees damages. And he referred the HOA's finances for criminal investigation. The gavel cracked like a gunshot. Case closed. Karen stormed out without a word. Within a week, a for sale sign stood in her lawn. No goodbye parties, no Facebook rants, just silence and an empty driveway. And that's where I'll leave it. Not with fireworks, not with celebrations, but with the truth standing steady while her lies collapsed. Because that's the lesson, really. No matter how loud the bullies get, the truth will always grow deeper roots.